Good morning. Today we're going to fill out the zero part of our characteristics of quadratic functions, this part in our notes. So yesterday you did minimum and maximum. In the past you've practiced opening direction, axis of symmetry, and vertex. For finding zeros, we're going to concentrate on finding them with only a graph. So we're not going to do any calculations with equations. Here are the notes that you're going to take. You have quadratic functions. We know the function already. We know it's going to make a parabola. So funny thing about zeros is, do you know you can spell zeros with an E or without, and it's correct both ways? So zeros are the place where the graph touches the x-axis. Sometimes you might see them called roots. You might see them called solutions. And you might see them called x-intercepts. Oops. So x-intercepts is definitely a term we've talked about. We've talked about y-intercepts, which is where a line crosses the y-axis. Here's the x-axis. So now we're talking about where a line crosses the x-axis. Here's our x-axis, if you want to label that. Here's our y-axis. So where it crosses. So that would be this point right here is where this parabola comes down, crosses the x, scoots back up. So there are three types of zeros you might find in your parabola when doing this. The most often one that you're going to find is going to be this kind right here, where the parabola comes down, crosses x, scoots around, crosses x a second time. So this has two x points. It has an x point here and an x point here. So if I go to my 0 and I count over, this would be x equals -2, and this would be x equals 3. So this parabola has two answers. Okay, x equals -2, x equals 3. And you will very often see that will be the most popular way that you see your parabola. Sometimes you might see a parabola like this one right here. This is an upward facing or positive a value. This is a positive parabola. It has a minimum. The minimum is right here. Okay, and in this point, your x value, if I count over, is 1, 2, 3, negative. So this only has one answer. This one answer for this one graph, it comes down, it hits the x-axis, it goes back up. This is a one answer type of graph. So over here is a different type of graph. It's facing downward. And this also has one answer. And the one answer would be x equals 1, 2, 3, because we go over 3 from the origin or from 0. So x equals 3 on this graph, and it just has one answer because it only touches the x line one time. The last type of graph you might see, not so often, but you will occasionally see it, is this type of parabola. It could look like this. It could look like this. It could look all kinds of ways, but it is not going to come up and cross the x-axis. So it's going to have no zeros. Okay, and you would answer as such. You would write no zeros on the line because this does not come up. This does not cross the x. Here's our x-axis. It does not cross the x-axis in any way. So those are zeros. For homework, you have, or for practice, you have number 5, 6, and 7 at the end of the quadratic functions day 5 notes. All right, hope you guys are doing well. Enjoy your day.